When Sarah Ferguson packed her bags and left the Royal Lodge, it wasn't just the end of a cohabitation. It was a final split of a long, complicated chapter. Prince Andrew, still holding on to the property, now finds himself in physical solitude that mirrors his social isolation. And yet, instead of retreating, he's reportedly leaning into the single life, telling friends he feels liberated and exploring dating through elite, invite-only apps.
If you love getting the real story behind the palace walls, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and tap the notification bell so you never miss an update.
It's a surprising turn for someone who has been under mental health watch and publicly shamed in recent years. But the timing feels intentional, as if distance from Ferguson signaled permission to hit reset. Andrew's attempt to embrace bachelorhood in such curated circles speaks volumes about how he views himself and how he wants to be seen. This isn't just about dating, it's about control. The carefully selected platforms, the avoidance of mainstream spaces, the jokes about living like a commoner, it's all part of a narrative he's crafting for himself. Whether the public buys it or sees it as denial dressed up as freedom is another story entirely. Prince Andrew is apparently back on the market. Not on Tinder or Bumble. He hasn't stooped to that level, but quietly poking around ultra-exclusive dating apps, the kind you only get invited to if you have a title, money, or a really good publicist. According to insiders, he's been looking into high-end, privacy-focused platforms as part of what seems to be a broader attempt at reinventing himself, now that his royal duties have been completely stripped away. This isn't just idle gossip. Several sources say Andrew has been dropping casual remarks about living like a regular bloke, socializing, meeting people, even dating. It's a dramatic shift from the Andrew we saw not too long ago, described as withdrawn, moody, and under mental health observation. The tone now is reportedly upbeat, almost carefree, but that's exactly what's raising eyebrows. The timing couldn't be more suspect. Sarah Ferguson, his ex-wife and longtime cohabitant, is said to be moving out of the Royal Lodge. For years, the two lived under the same roof in a somewhat unconventional yet consistent arrangement. That setup now seems to be dissolving, with Ferguson preparing to set up her own household elsewhere. Her decision adds another layer to Andrew's current shift in behavior. As one chapter of shared domestic life closes, he seems oddly eager to throw himself into the dating world, like he's trying to reclaim something: youth, normalcy, control. Some observers call it a reset. Others call it denial.
If you love getting the real story behind the palace walls, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and tap the notification bell so you never miss an update.
Leaving the Royal Lodge is more than just packing bags. It's a symbolic shift. This estate has been a sort of fortress for Andrew, one of the last remaining physical connections to his former life as a working royal. The move signals a kind of exile, whether voluntary or not. And it lines up almost too neatly with his recent push to live like an ordinary man, dating and socializing as if the last few years never happened. But is this move part of an actual transformation? Or is it just relocation dressed up as progress? Without the prestige and protection of his titles, Andrew's newfound enthusiasm for dating and social life feels less like liberation and more like a man scrambling to stay relevant. None of this can be separated from his past. His name is still deeply entangled in the Epstein scandal, and public memory isn't short. For Andrew to start publicly seeking companionship again, especially through elite social circles, without acknowledging the elephant in the room feels bold at best and tone-deaf at worst. Whether he acknowledges it or not, any move he makes now is seen through the lens of that history. The scandal, the civil suit, the disastrous BBC interview, all of it still lingers, tainting even the most basic attempt at personal. It's hard not to notice how his shift from personal intermediaries to digital platforms mirrors the void left by Ghislaine Maxwell. For years, she was a social gatekeeper, the connector, the one who facilitated Andrew's private introductions. Now, with Maxwell behind bars, he appears to be trading human discretion for algorithmic matchmaking. But the choice of app matters. He's reportedly avoiding mainstream platforms, preferring invitation-only communities that promise vetting and anonymity. It's a clear nod to the past. He still wants control over who he meets and how. Only now, it's through apps, not. The specter of Epstein continues to hang over everything. Even if Andrew tries to scrub the past from his public image, there's no erasing the fact that his name was repeatedly linked to a convicted sex offender. That kind of damage doesn't vanish just because someone installs a dating app. People don't forget. And if he's hoping that a new romantic chapter will help distract from or overwrite that history, he's misreading the room. His romantic pursuits, especially in elite circles, only reintroduce the same questions about judgment, associations, and whether anything has truly changed. His relationship with Sarah Ferguson, which has always defied royal norms, adds more complexity. 4 years. They lived together post-divorce, raising eyebrows but also offering a kind of strange consistency. Now that she's moving on, it's like Andrew has been kicked into a new phase, one where he no longer has that emotional buffer or domestic comfort. Observers say the separation has hit him harder than he lets on. While he may be laughing about dates and late-night socializing, there are signs that he's still navigating emotional turbulence. It's hard to tell whether the new behavior is a rebound from loneliness or sincere effort at starting over. Within the royal family, there's cautious distance. Andrew's removal from official duties, titles, and events wasn't subtle. It was strategic and deliberate, a public repositioning meant to create as much space as possible between him and the crown. That kind of institutional exile doesn't happen overnight, and it certainly isn't undone with a few dating app profiles. If anything, his social reinvention seems out of step with the careful, image-managed silence the family has tried to maintain. While the firm works to stabilize its public reputation, Andrew's return to the social scene risks dragging that carefully built distance back into the spotlight. There's also the matter of timing. The whiplash from emotional lows to reported joviality has people questioning whether this is a genuine turnaround or just a coping mechanism. Sources have indicated that Andrew was under observation for mental health concerns. Not long ago, he was described as reclusive and disconnected. Now, his joking about casual dating. The dramatic shift raises obvious questions. Has he actually processed the fallout of the last several years? Or is this just a mask, a PR move designed to signal stability while avoiding accountability? The contrast is jarring, and many aren't convinced it's sustainable. Ultimately, it comes down to perception. Andrew might feel like he's starting fresh, but the public isn't so quick to turn the page. His history isn't ancient. His scandal isn't forgotten. And no amount of curated online profiles or elite mixers can erase the context that surrounds him. Every move he makes now, especially public or semi-public ones, is under scrutiny. His desire to find companionship might be human, even understandable, but the optics are complicated. Especially when the last time he was in the headlines for his personal associations, it nearly shattered the monarchy's image. There's a fundamental issue that continues to cloud every step Andrew takes, the question of accountability. Because while he's been stripped of royal duties and titles, many feel the consequences didn't go far enough. Public trust wasn't just shaken, it was shattered. And now, the idea of him casually jumping back into the dating scene has reignited anger. People don't forget that his name was tied to one of the most notorious scandals in modern royal history. The legal settlement, the royal distancing, the press silence, it all felt orchestrated, not reflective. And so when Andrew steps out with a grin or tries to move on publicly, it feels less like healing and more like erasure. Fergie, for all her quirks and controversies, has maintained a curious loyalty to Andrew. She stood by him publicly even after the Epstein debacle, calling him a good man and a devoted father. But this latest chapter seems to mark a turning point. Her decision to establish her own residence isn't just logistical, it's symbolic. 4 years, she was seen as the one person who still backed him without hesitation. But now, with distance between them growing, that dynamic is shifting. Her silence around these new reports about his dating life is telling. It suggests even she may be stepping back, either to protect herself or because she no longer wants to be caught in the fallout. Then there's the Royal Lodge, their long-time shared estate in a place that became synonymous with Andrew's post-scandal retreat. His grip on the property has reportedly been challenged multiple times, with Charles pushing for him to vacate and reduce royal financial strain. The fact that he's now finally leaving? That's not nothing. It's not just a change of address, it's a false reckoning. 4 years, that house insulated him from the full consequences of public life. It gave the illusion of stability. But once that's gone, Andrew steps out with far less protection, both physically and emotionally. And stepping into elite dating circles under that kind of scrutiny is a risky. Ghislaine's role in all of this is rarely mentioned by Andrew himself, but a connection is impossible to ignore. She was more than just a socialite. She was part of the infrastructure that enabled his past lifestyle. With her gone, imprisoned, and disgraced, the loss of that gatekeeping function has forced Andrew to pivot. But his solution, digital exclusivity, still echoes the same patterns. Discreet access, vetted circles, connections without exposure. It's like he's trying to replicate the Maxwell method with a new interface. Which raises a question. Is this really growth, or just modernization of old habits? And let's be honest, dating for Andrew isn't just dating. Every new person he meets becomes a potential headline. Every outing, every conversation, is a risk. For someone with his baggage, privacy is never guaranteed. Even the most exclusive app can't shield him from screenshots, leaks, or whispers in society circles. He may want a fresh start, but it's not just any 60-something re-entering the dating pool. Here's Prince Andrew, the man who went from spare to the heir to a near pariah, all under the global microscope. That kind of notoriety doesn't just fade, no matter how curated the profile or how private the dinner. There's also the bizarre duality of his public image right now. On one hand, he's reportedly upbeat, making jokes about living like a commoner. On the other, the public sees someone who hasn't made amends, hasn't owned up, and hasn't earned that lightness. The disconnect is jarring. He's trying to act like the scandal is behind him, but the world hasn't caught up with that narrative. And that's the problem. Reinvention without reflection doesn't land well. It comes off as avoidance. Or worse, entitlement, the idea that because a palace has moved on, so should everyone else. Meanwhile, the rest of the royal family is still walking on eggshells around the issue. They've managed to keep him off official rosters, out of family portraits, and off royal event guest lists. But they haven't spoken publicly about the depth of the fallout. It's a royal MO. Silence is strategy, but even silence has limits. If Andrew continues pushing for visibility, through dating, public outings, or interviews, the family will be forced to re-engage, and that's something they worked hard to avoid. His personal choices could easily trigger another round of reputational whiplash for them. Epstein's shadow remains long. Every time Andrew steps into the spotlight, that name resurfaces. It's not just historical baggage, it's active context. The settlements, the accusations, the friendships, they are part of how people evaluate every new chapter Andrew tries to start. So when he seeks out companionship now, it's not viewed through a romantic lens. It's analyzed, questioned, dissected. And until there's clear, public acknowledgement of that past, everything else he does feels like posturing. Like he's skipping the necessary steps and jumping straight to the soft launch of a comeback. There's something inherently risky about his approach. Instead of laying low, letting time pass, and showing real behavioral change, he's out here testing the waters of elite dating apps like it's a casual midlife experiment. It's not for him, not with that history. And the fact that insiders are already talking, that sources are leaking this information, suggests people in his circle know this won't stay quiet. Whether he's doing it for validation, distraction, or a misguided attempt at reclaiming power, the move feels calculated, but not necessarily well thought out. At the end of the day, this isn't just about Andrew's dating life. It's about credibility, about whether someone with a reputation so profoundly damaged can, or should, try to rebuild a social persona without addressing what broke it in the first place. The idea of reinvention isn't inherently bad. But for Andrew, reinvention without remorse reads more like a rebrand. And the public sees through that. Every attempt at normalcy is filtered through a history that hasn't been reconciled. That's a reality he's up against, one he can't swipe away. There's an underlying tension in how Andrew's choices keep surfacing. He's not officially part of the royal brand anymore, but his name never really left the headlines. And this whole dating app situation only underscores that. When someone like him tries to re-enter public life, even through something as seemingly mundane as online dating, it's never mundane. Because for Andrew, nothing happens in a vacuum. A dinner date isn't just a dinner date. It's a potential PR disaster, a tabloid feeding frenzy, and another reason for the public to rehash everything they haven't forgiven. That's the reality when your legacy is defined by scandal rather than service. And the royal family knows it. They worked overtime trying to distance themselves, removing him from patronages, military roles, public appearances. The hope was that without titles or visibility, public attention would eventually drift elsewhere. But Andrew doesn't seem ready to fade quietly. His efforts to re-enter the social world drag the monarchy back into uncomfortable territory. Because no matter how unofficial his actions are, they reflect on the institution. And every reminder of his presence reminds people of what the family didn't say, what they didn't do, and how incomplete the accountability still feels. Even now, people are still asking, has Andrew really faced the consequences? Losing titles and stepping back from duties felt like damage control, not justice. And with each new attempt at reinvention, those questions resurface. Because the core issue hasn't changed. He avoided a trial by settling out of court, but never explained himself in a way that satisfied anyone. That unresolved tension taints everything. If he posts a profile, if he shows up at an event, if he's seen smiling, it reads like he's moved on without ever really owning what happened. And that's the source of public discomfort. Not just a past, but a refusal to deal with it. The digital dating world might be new territory for Andrew, but his pursuit of vetted, exclusive circles isn't. That preference has always been there. He surrounded himself with people like Ghislaine Maxwell because they offered access and insulation. A curated social life where introductions came with discretion and protection. With Maxwell gone, dating apps with high entry barriers offer a similar illusion of control. But apps don't guarantee trust. And in his case, they certainly don't guarantee safety from exposure. He might think he's being cautious, but the very fact that people are leaking his app activity proves how fragile that privacy really is. Then there's Fergie, who, for better or worse, has been one of his most consistent defenders. Her loyalty has been controversial, sometimes baffling, but also very human. She's insisted Andrew is misunderstood, a victim of circumstance, a loving father. But lately, she's been quieter. Whether she supports this new phase in his life or not, she doesn't seem to be publicly involved, and her decision to separate their living situations only adds to the distance. Maybe she's pulling back. Maybe she's protecting her own reputation. Or maybe even she's questioning how far she can go to shield someone who refuses to read the room. Their strange post-divorce partnership has always been a curiosity. Living together, raising daughters, attending events side by side, it was unconventional but oddly enduring. That dynamic, more than anything, made Andrew's exile feel incomplete. He may have lost his titles, but he still had his old life at home. Now, with that chapter ending, there's a sense of real isolation creeping in. No more shared breakfasts in the Royal Lodge. No more quiet alliance shielding him from the press. If Sarah truly moves on, emotionally and physically, Andrew loses the one person who still made his world feel normal. The Royal Lodge itself has always been more than just a roof over Andrew's head. It symbolized status, defiance, and stubborn permanence. When calls for him to leave started surfacing, he resisted. Hard. But the pressure from King Charles reportedly hasn't let up, and now the move is finally happening. Leaving that estate signals more than change. It marks the end of an illusion that he could weather the storm without truly changing. Once he's out, he's just another private citizen with a controversial past, navigating a public that doesn't owe him any reverence. It's a shift he's clearly trying to ignore. The choice to seek out new relationships now, in this moment, feels oddly timed. Not because he doesn't deserve human connection, but because the groundwork for trust hasn't been laid. The public hasn't been given a reason to believe he's changed. And potential dates, no matter how elite or private, are still walking into a complicated mess. Andrew Mayfield is entering a new era. That by leaving the lodge, separating from Sarah, and finding new companionship, he's rebuilding. But the foundation hasn't been repaired. The cracks are still there, and every move risks exposing how fragile the structure really is. It's not even clear what kind of relationships he's after. Reports suggest he's joking about living freely, dating like a commoner, mingling with normal people. But this isn't a sitcom. Public trust isn't won back with a few jokes and a dating profile. If anything, the flippant tone only reinforces how unseriously he takes his own fall from grace. And that's what's so unnerving. The behavior doesn't match the context. For someone under heavy public scrutiny, with unresolved legal and reputational baggage, the optics of casually re-entering elite dating pools feels like a provocation. Or worse, a total lack of awareness. Whether he realizes it or not, Andrew's personal choices are still public matters. Not because of royal titles, but because of the history attached to his name. His past isn't ancient. His associations aren't forgotten. And any effort to start fresh will always be filtered through that lens. People want to see accountability, not avoidance. Growth, not gallows humor. If Andrew genuinely wants to reclaim a sense of independence, he'll need more than exclusive apps and a new address. He'll need to confront the damage he's done and stop pretending he can reset the board without facing the pieces. So now we're here, watching a man who once held military titles and royal appointments now testing the waters of VIP dating apps like it's some casual midlife pivot. But this isn't a clean slate. It's not a rom-com comeback. It's a public figure tangled in unresolved scandal, trying to act like the world forgot. Spoiler, it hasn't. And while Andrew may be swiping forward, the rest of us are still staring at the rearview mirror. Because no matter how exclusive the app, reputation doesn't come with a filter. If you've got thoughts, drop them in the comments. Are we witnessing a reinvention, or just another royal deflection? Hit that like button if your jaw's been on the floor this whole time, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the drama they really don't want you talking about.